Blah. Y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov, what it do? The outlet to reality, the holders podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama or maybe hide from your baby mama. Just kidding. Y si tú quieres cambiar tu vida, if you want to change your life, then subscribe. Chit. And by the way, guys, I just came out with my first book called Shabbat in Chicago. It's out on Amazon about an audacious single mom who opens her heart and home to five adopted kids while embracing her Latino culture while being Jewish. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very, very special guest. I had to bring him. He is also in the book as Big Isa. And guys, this guy taught me a lot of things. He's my like big brother. Give it up for the one and only Isa. Woo!
Thank you for the nice intro. It's a joy to be on the show, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, but I had to bring you, man. You understand, man. I start sweating. But look, I gotta tell you this. So one of my favorite memories of you, so my audience get to know you, is that Isa taught me how to fight. When I was young, we were, he was tough on me, but because he cared. So when I was young, he was like, look, man, you gotta learn how to protect yourself. He taught me the basic first. He's like, jab, hook and cross, right? He's like, man, remember these three moves because it's gonna help you. I said, okay, cool. And the crazy thing, the same day he taught me, right? The next day, I got in a fight with this kid playing basketball, and he would just make you fun of me, teasing me. Then he pushed me, and so I pushed him back. And in my head, I'm like, all right, Issa taught me the 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking in my head, right? You know what I'm saying? And this fool, he really punches, and I stepped back, so I blocked it. And I said, okay, he said, jab, cross, hook, bam, I got him. I hit him real good. I was like, damn, I feel like a Superman, like I got powers, you know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing, because this is my first fight, the kid did tackle me to the ground. After I got him real good, those three moves, he tackled me in the ground, and I wasn't ready for the ground fighting. So he beat me right there. You know what I'm saying? But it was sad, brother. But I wanted to tell you thank you. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, you got the basics then, at least.
Oh man. But what about you, brother? What memories you could remember like us growing up, in Chicago?
I mean, there was a lot of memories, man. We recently reconnected again, not that long ago, where we really had a long time frame that we really didn't see each other. And you know what? There was a rush of memories, dude. There was a rush of memories of like a bunch of them. We had a lot of good times a long time ago, right? But I mean, a few of them stood out, man. Like you said, to me, it really did feel like you were like the younger brother I never had, right? So there was a lot of little life lessons, a lot of things that we experienced together. Me feeling like a big brother, you feeling like a little brother. But just teaching all the things to a young man that I could teach from my life experiences to that point, right? I mean, one of my favorite memories though was one time we were hanging out at Little East's house, and it was just you and all your other half brothers, and we were just all wrestling and just like learning. And I was just showing you guys, like, look, man, it's not just about strength. There's also strength in numbers. There's also strength in technique, and we were just having a good old time, man. That definitely for sure was one of the memories that stood out to me the most. You
Wow.
know, growing up with y'all.
Oh man, I can't believe you remember that. So Pablo, he was really into jiu-jitsu. He's like, man, I could beat you, Issa. You ain't stronger. I got you. And so Issa goes, all right, I want you to record this on my phone so I can show him how he's about to lose. So I grabbed the phone and I see Issa, and they're going at it. They're taking the shirt off. This is real now. My brother and Big Issa, they're going. And then Pablo did not know this move. There's a move that Big Issa knows where you go by their like diamond frame, and you put your fist there, and it really will take your air out. Like you just push it in, and I remember it. And he never learned that, and he goes, you know, what I'm saying, all I hear is Pablo. He just trying to tap, and he tapped. Thanks. You see? And it was the funniest thing because it really, and you're right. Daniel was there. It was all three. And it's so funny because we all took turns trying to beat Big E's. I knew I wasn't gonna win, but I at least try. You see? You see? But it was just so funny. And dude, that I can't believe you really got a good memory. I gotta give you credit. I don't know if it's the Cheerios.
I really don't, dude. People ask me stuff all the time. And I'm like, I really have a terrible memory, historically speaking. But that was a really great bonding moment between all of us as young men, you know? And because of that, it really did imprint itself in my forefront memories, dude. It really did. I mean, I just remember feeling like, man, I'm gonna help these guys learn something that they've never ever learned. It's going to make them better to be able to defend themselves, or you know, if an emergency situation comes up, whatever the case may be. And of course, I had a good time, dude. I had a really good time. We had a lot of fun. I mean, the part that stands out the most is when you guys were like, all right, well, all of us are going to go out against them all at the same time. We're going to take them out with all of us. And even with that, you guys weren't able to. It was fun though. It was fun.
Oh man, it's too funny, brother. Oh man. Well, look, brother, I want so my fans to get to know you a little bit more. You know, you were raised in Chicago, born in Mexico. Tell us your transition. What made you, living your whole life in Chicago and make that big move to Michigan? Like I'm shocked. I was even shocked that you left. Like what made you give that? Like was there someone that told you or inspire you, or what was the mind process like?
Of course. I mean, it's for anyone that grows up in any of the big cities, you know, like Chicago, New York City, Los Angeles, stuff like that. Everyone that I speak to on the topic of, you know, leaving home, right? Because that's home, right? They're all like, no, I could never imagine living outside of Chicago. And I was that guy. I was that guy too my entire life. Like I would go visit other places and I'd be like, I'm never leaving Chicago. It's the best, right? But really, it's because I was visiting all the wrong places, if you ask me now, current day, right? I started dating someone and they lived in northern Michigan all their life growing up. And what was funny is that the conversations about childhood were completely different. Like, and I mean different to the point that I'm like, they would tell me like, yeah, I would like go to school, come back home. My parents wouldn't be there. Then I would like ride my bike, and then I would come home, you know, when it got dark out and stuff like that, or when it was dinner time. And I was like, wait, you actually played outside? Like you actually like rode your bikes with your friends, and like no one was watching you? And they're like, yeah, that was normal life. And I'm like, oh, this person's lying to me. Like they watched a lot of, you know, a lot of Disney movies, and you know, that's what it's like in the movies, right? That's not real life. You know, that's what you believe as someone who grows up in the inner city Chicago life, right? And no, I started visiting, you know, going on vacations and going to some of the like where she grew up. And dude, it was real. It was real. And it took me back, dude. I remember the first time seeing that as a reality. I was like, well, if that's real and what I was experiencing was real, I really had a moment there where I was like, well, then my stuff sucked, right? Maybe Chicago's not all it's cracked up to be, right? Like, well, we got to worry about, you know, gang members and people getting shot. And me even telling her that, like, a bunch of people I know that I knew growing up got killed right down the street from me. And I know people that died. And she was like, really? She's like, no one's even ever been shot where I'm from. I'm like, really? Like, no. She's like, no, never. She's like, maybe there was like one fight a year in school, maybe. I was like, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then stuff like that, man. Just seeing how everybody was just friendly, not rude. You know, you can't even walk down the street in Chicago and be like, hey, good morning.
Right.
People look at you like, what the hell does this dude want? Like,
Right.
get away from me. What kind of scam is this? And it's like, no, people just you just walk down the street of these small towns in Michigan and they're just like, yeah, good morning, how you doing? It's just weird, dude. It's weird, but it definitely makes you feel like a human and not just like a threat, right? So that kind of thing really, really did start changing the way that I looked at things. And then of course things got a little serious with this young lady. And we were talking about, having a family, raising kids and all that stuff. And I'm like, why the hell would I ever want to raise a kid the way that I grew up when this is available? Right? When this small town living, people trusting each other, people looking out for your kid, you know, like literally, like it's peace, right? And that's one of the biggest things that as I get older is more and more important to me is just peace. So yeah, I was like, yeah, let's if we're gonna have kids, let's go move to northern Michigan, right? Raise kids up there so then my kids could play on their bikes down the street and me not have to worry about them getting shot or something like that. So that was very important to me. That was very important to me. And then now this is life, man.
Oh, that's crazy, fam. Now, please tell them how like you got into the dealership. And now I know a little bit. I remember when you used to work at my dad's restaurant, the King of Burritos, back in Chicago. My dad would share some stuff about car sales. And I remember you told me like, man, your dad knows a lot about, and you were big into cars. I remember you taught me how to change my first light, do the oil change. Like you made me remember, you're like, look, if you're gonna have a car, you gotta learn the basics. You know what I'm saying? You want to put the speakers, I'm gonna show you where to put the wire. And I was like, oh snap, I'm taking notes and stuff. But it's really interesting because I remember that like you would tell me, like, I'm gonna, check, I'm gonna look into it. And yeah, please tell us your journey because you're actually the first person. I had a lot of people on the show that are into car sales or work in dealership, but they're all women. This is the first time I have a guy that talk about it. So please, man, spill the beans, but not the cheese.
Of course, of course. Yeah, no, man. I was always into cars. I was always into cars. Kind of like that same thing where I like showed you all the basics. My dad, since I was a very young kid, he did the same thing. He's like, you're gonna change the oil with me. You're gonna change spark plugs, all this stuff. And I fell in love with that, right? Because I was a carpenter's son, right? So he's always trying to teach me all this like fixing house stuff, and I'm like, nah, I don't care about that. Let me know about Sunday when we're gonna like work on the truck. And I loved it, man. I was a big gearhead. Loved anything related to cars. I mean, the car magazines, the car videos when YouTube came out, and that was the thing way before your time. Uh, when it first came out, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch car videos all the time. So I was always drawn to the car world, right? And I just didn't really see much of a future in me in it. So I just continued my path of just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I do remember talking to your dad about the car dealership world. But here's the thing, man. There's such an intimidating factor in the car sales world, right? Because perfect example, I would see your dad. He would show up in this nice suit and tie, looking fresh, right? And there's that self doubt. Like, man, he's like an older, well-established male. He looks really good. Of course he can sell cars. And you have that self-doubt where you're like, well, what about me though? I don't know. Like, yeah, I know a lot about cars, but I don't see that in me, right? Self-doubt. It's all it was. It's all it ever was. And what was funny is that I played with the idea of it, but I never really looked into it. And then one of my really good friends was telling me, he's like, dude, you have a really good way of speaking with people. You would do really well in car sales. He's like, come work at the dealership that I work at. Keep in mind, this guy was like a manager, downtown Audi dealership. I was like, yeah, okay, bro. I was like, right. He's like, nah, dude. He's like, you can totally do this. He's like, just get in somewhere, start. And if you don't think you're ready for that just yet, then you can just do something else. I was like, I don't know, man. And I was like, it's a scary thing when you think about sales jobs because it's literally the first job for me where it was like, you're gonna make money when you sell cars. And it's like, okay, well, what about when I don't sell cars? And then like, then you don't make any money. And I was like, well, that's not gonna work. I've got bills now, like not maybe bills later. Like, so it's like once again, the self-doubt, the fear of not being able to make it, the fear of not being able to pay my bills. So I was like, I don't know about this, bro. So I was like, I mean, I do want to work at the dealership because I love cars. So it'll give me a foot in the door in an industry that I was very interested in. So I was like, you know what? I'll start washing cars first, like see if I fit in, people like me, and then I'll like see if I really want to do the car sales thing, and I'll do that. And I did, man. I went in there, put in my Mexican work ethic, was crushing it, changed a lot of things, a lot of ways that they did things at the dealership, and it made people notice. Made people notice specifically like the general manager. And they're like, no, dude, you should definitely be selling cars. They're like, the way that you are, the way that you can manage the people that work under you, they're like, you need to do this. And a couple of my friends at the time and my partner at the time was like, yeah, you should definitely do this. They're like, I don't know what the hell you're scared of. They're like, you're just holding yourself back. You're just holding yourself back. Just do it. And I was like, you know what? All right, fine. I'm like, everybody else around me believes in me except myself. So why not? Let's do it. And it went very well. It went very well. I did not have any trouble selling cars at all. So that's how I got into it, man. And I really did love selling cars. It was really a nice opportunity to realize my potential. I went from the guy who washes your car to being the guy that sold you a car to eventually being one of the sales managers that managed the sales team. So I made it all the way to that point, from the car wash guy to being one of the sales managers at downtown Audi Chicago. Like it was a big deal for me, man.
Whoa, that's crazy, man. And so when you moved to Michigan, you also moved up again, right? When you went to Michigan?
Yeah, no, I mean, when I went to Michigan, I actually said, you know what, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, nah, man. See, the
What?
thing, the thing with the dealership world is it is time consuming, dude. The hours are long. A lot of people will tell you that no, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not that bad when you look at the money, right? When you look at the kind of money you're making, you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. It's not that bad. But when you're looking at the time you actually spend there, and you're putting in 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week. I mean, that's a lot of your free time, dude. And if you've got a family, which I do, you got kids, you've got other responsibilities, and you're like, yeah, but money's not everything. Money is not everything, especially when you come home after a long week, you got one day off for sure during the weekend, which is Sunday, and then you're like, okay, well, now I got to run errands. I got to get my groceries, I got to get my dry cleaning, I got to get all this stuff. And then you're like, I'm barely spending any quality time with my kids. It's great, the nanny's there, they're being taken care of, all that stuff's fun and games, but then you're like, I don't know my kids, dude. I don't know my kids.
Wow.
So when we moved up to Michigan, this last time that we moved up here, I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. We got to figure something else out where I have a good work-life balance so that I can do the family thing, do the work thing, and it makes sense for me because I don't want to lose these years of my kids being these small kids and I miss out on it. So what I ended up doing was I started my own like remodeling handyman business. So that's what I've been doing ever since I moved up here this last time, dude.
Wow. And look at your dad already taught you like the
All of that
look
stuff.
at this.
All
This
of
is
that stuff.
crazy. How we come back, you know what I'm saying? And you thought I'll never touch this. I want to do just cars. And you came back, but good thing your dad taught you this. This is a really good thing, you know?
No, he did. I mean, he literally would drag me to work since I was like 9 years old, dude. Like
Wow.
he'd be that Mexican dad and be like on Saturday, "What are you doing today?" I'm like, "Hanging out, you know. I went to school all week." He's like, "Nope, you're coming to work with me." So, and then
Wow.
during the summers, the same thing. Every summer, I wasn't allowed to just stay home and do nothing. No, he was like, "No, we're going to work." So, no, dude, ever since I was young, even though I loved cars, I was doing construction. And I just remember saying, "I hate this. I hate this. This is like the worst thing ever." And he's like, "You need to learn this stuff." And he's like, Maybe you can like keep going with the family business and all that stuff." And I'm like, I'm never gonna do this. I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do is be like you and like work in construction. Like, I don't want that for myself. And I see where I was thinking very small minded at the time. And ultimately, dude, it was because I never not used those skills. You know, when I was in the car industry, who was fixing stuff at the house? Me. You know, who was the one that was like, this is what needs to happen? Me. I know it's wrong because I learned all this stuff, right? And then I never stopped working on the house, dude. I never did. I was always working on something. And it's all thanks to the skill that I learned from my dad. And trust me, I'm lucky enough to still have my dad in my life. And I've had that conversation with him where I'm like, you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong, and I'm glad that you didn't listen to me about not wanting to learn this and not caring, and then you kind of pushed me forcefully to learn this stuff because now it's literally given me the ability to pursue my future in what I want to do now.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
so powerful, brother. I'm so happy you had the opportunity to talk to your dad and be honest. I think that's every I know us growing up as men, we sometimes like to hold things, and I think it's good to talk it out, you know. And I think that's a great moment because you'll never forget that, having that real authentic conversation with your father. That's deep. That's deep, fam. Now, look, man, I want to ask you something. So, I know you read the book Shabbat in Chicago. One of the first people to finish it. Please tell me what was your output like? What now that because you basically I can say you raised me too growing up, but tell me like what did you see different or like what was your thoughts when you read this?
Yeah, no, for sure. One of my initial thoughts right away, a couple chapters in was I truly do believe that as a society and as people, we always like to assume that we know people, that we know everything, that just spend a few hours with someone and you know what they're like. And one thing that stood out to me is that, like, man, I thought I knew you. I thought I knew your life. I thought I knew your family, right? And reading the book just totally let me realize I knew nothing about you guys. Like I was like, oh, I know everything about the family. I'm a part of the family. Like, no, dude, there was like so much in there that was like, what? When did that happen? What is this? What are they talking about? I didn't know your mom was living in Mexico. I didn't know you had an older brother at one point. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff, right? And I was just like, wow, I really don't know David. I really don't. Like, I thought I did, but it was just the tip of the iceberg, you know? And that's really all we see. Even when we have these relationships with people, we really don't see everything. And that book was a real clear indicator to remind me that that's the case. So that's what stood out to me, man, for sure.
Wow, that's amazing, bro. Thank you. And I remember you texting me saying how like I noticed when you're writing the book, you don't spell out
Mhm.
God's name. You just put G-D. And I explained, it's a very we don't want to say God's name in paper because we believe that he's holier than us, that we can never be in his level. So to give his respect, because we're not, perfect, we put a G-D or we say Hashem. Hashem means in Hebrew translated the name. that we can't say, you know. So it's pretty deep. It's pretty deep, and and you were like, dang, you guys are real strict, man. Like you guys don't play around. I'm like, yeah, brother. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? But it was nice, man,
Mm, that's
because
great.
that you were the first person that actually gave me like feedback and like sent me texts and messages. And I had a girl, she messaged me like maybe like a month later, asked the same question, like curious, you know. And this was nice because a lot of people, they believe that Jewish people are only European, you know, Ashkenaz. And I feel like with this book, it shows how I was able to live with all different groups of Jewish, all different walks of life, and people that weren't Jewish. But for people to come to my home and to experience what my mom did, you know, doing the Shabbat, it like showed the world that moment that there are Latino Jews in the world.
For sure. No, it's definitely it was definitely interesting watching you grow up with the Jewish culture for sure. I mean, honestly, I was taken back. I was just like, what's going on here? Like, what's going on here, man? Got my little Jewish cousin here that's like Guatemalan and Mexican. I don't really understand what's going on here. And I mean, we're in Chicago, right? Like Chicago, Chicago. Like now when people say Chicago and they mean Schaumburg, we're in the heart of Chicago. And you got this little brown boy. He's got his little the Jewish, the thing that you guys wear on the side, and you had the little curls going. And
Yeah.
I was worried about you, man. I was like, not because of the Jewish thing, but I was worried about you because like the neighborhood boys. Like I was honestly like, man, they might beat this guy up. Like it was interesting, but I was like, I wonder if this is real, right? I remember thinking that back in the day. I'm like, I wonder if this is real. Like, this is going to be like a lifelong commitment and that he's serious about this because some people do that, right? Some people start getting into certain religions or certain groups and they don't continue with that. And I'm not a very, very like what someone would say a religious person. I'm not. I do believe in God. I do believe in that 100%. And I have a lot of respect for religion and people who practice religion because generally speaking, there's going to be some good that's going to come out of this. So I was like, I hope this is good for him, right? I mean, and I see it, and I saw it then that you were learning a lot. And the most important part for me was that you had all these people that were like supporting you and they were part of the Jewish temple and that they were like in your life supporting you. The support system was amazing. And you were telling me about these older dudes that were like helping you with certain programs or helping you with issues you were having. And I was just like, see, that's where it matters. That stuff like that is where it really matters. Where those are going to be the changes that make big changes in your life in the right direction. And I'm grateful that you had that, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, it was a very hard thing to do, right? So when I was young, real quick, um, I mentioned a little bit in the book how in high school people didn't accept me because I was Latino and Jewish, and I was struggling with myself. I'm like, should I hide my identity or should I just go, you know, go with the flow and just be myself? And I mentioned the book. I did get a lot of fights in high school, a lot. Um, but luckily, the teachers that happened to be Jewish, they were there to have my back. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like you said, community, like they were there for me. And now that I'm older, I get a lot of people that and it's from everywhere, like Latinos, whoever, but they'd be like, wow, you're the first Latino Jew I've ever met. Like always I get this. And I say, how in my brain, I'm trying to comprehend this, right? I say if Muhammad Ali could be Muslim and black and no one questions it, how come you can't believe that a Hispanic could be Jewish? You know what I'm saying? Like you don't you gotta
That's
look
a good point.
you know what I'm saying, think the big picture, right? People come in all different life. And so I always think that, but I at the same time, something my cousin said that stood out. He's like, look, the moment you have your podcast out, your book, now you are opening a pathway for Latinos that are Jewish to not be afraid to come to the media. And now you're going to be a leader. So he said, you have to be careful what you post now on Instagram, YouTube, because they're going to look up to you. And if you, let's say you're doing something like you're, I don't know, let's just say I'm gambling, right? And I'm wasting all my money there and I'm there every day, right? I'm getting drunk. The people that are little, that are younger than me, they're gonna say, I want to do that because David's doing it, because Yaakov's doing it. It looks like it's the right thing. So now I'm more cautious than before on what I post because it sticks to my brain. Because I know eventually this thing is gonna go big, and I have to be ready. You know, that's another
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, 100%. People are going to hold you accountable for the things you're doing on social media. That's 100% going to happen. And honestly, every one of us should be mindful of that, regardless if we have a following or not. I mean, people don't think about that enough. Like this stuff's out there. You know, this is a representation that you're putting yourself about yourself. So think about it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. That was deep. That was deep. Thank you. But look, brother, I'm gonna wrap it up because it looks like Zoom about to kick us out. Guys, this is the Outlet to Reality, the holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. And y'all know where my book is at. It's called Shabbat in Chicago, out on Amazon. Please check it out. And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the Outlet to Reality. My Snapchat's Take One Pass It, and my TikTok is at Yaakov28. And brother, Big Issa, where can we find you, fam?
You can find me on Instagram. It's Isaiah.mancilla. That's basically it, man. I don't do a whole lot of stuff on there, but I'm on there.
Awesome,
And
man.
then yeah, make sure y'all get the book, guys. Come on, support your brother. Get the book.
Thank you. Thank you.